All right, we are recording.
Awesome. So it talks about in the article how we have those different stages. If you remember covering in the last spiritual class, we took those different stages that Fowler created of spiritual development.
Yeah.
And so it was like a brief review. And then because it talked about how Fowler, because he is unspecific to a religion, that it can be applied to multiple faiths. And so it was interesting. And when I was reading through it, and the one that kind of stuck out to me was the one where we saw like a transition from a Christian faith into a Muslim faith, and how the author talked about how the person in the case study was like they were at the same spiritual level. Like there was the same self-evaluation, that same stage 3 processing, even though he had completely changed his faith base. So I thought that was really interesting that you could make such a drastic shift and still stay at the same, spiritual and emotional processing point in regards to your religion.
That is really interesting. I remember reading that too. That's kind of hard to believe. I think we don't think of it that way, like in the Christian faith, a lot of ways. Like I think we think, I don't know, as a whole, maybe this is wrong, but as a whole, I think we think that our way, since we believe Jesus is like the way, the truth, and the life, like we think everyone else in their religion is like not as mature because they don't believe what we do. So I think I don't naturally think, oh, like even if they're this faith in this religion, they could still be at a similar like maturity and self-awareness level, even if they believe a totally different
right
thing.
Yeah, I was really challenged by that in the article because like I think my gut reaction as I was reading to be like, no, you're not as spiritually mature if you believe a different faith. Like one of the first things in the article I was like, what? It said it's the structures rather than the contents of faith that determine one's faith stage. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about that before. But I think it will be beneficial for us as counselors because we will be able to recognize strengths in someone who of a completely different faith and then be able to use those to help them. And like but there's like something in me, it's like it doesn't quite sit right, this idea of like, yeah, let's use like your strengths from the Muslim faith to help you overcome this trial,
Right. It's not like our natural instinct to do that well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That stuck out to me.
I think it's also kind of humbling for us as, like for us in our personal spiritual perspective to have to really reassess, okay, how can I tap into their strengths?
Absolutely.
And maybe it's a matter of us going back and rereading, doctrine on that particular faith in order to feel that we can actually build that rapport and help create that healing path for them. And I think that's I think sometimes as humanity, we have a tendency to see it just like this.
Yeah.
And then being forced to exposed to these other cultures and these other perspectives gives us the opportunity to look around and go, okay, maybe this is something that even if I don't agree with it, has value to this person. So who am I to discredit it?
Right. Yeah. I think I've been recognizing in myself like almost like this feeling of responsibility that I have to make sure my client does it like the right way biblically, and if they don't choose that for themselves, that's their choice. And it's not my responsibility per se to make sure that their life becomes completely like biblical, you know what I mean? But being able to use their strengths and recognize their faith as an asset for them would kind of help me to ease that responsibility off my shoulders,
Totally. Yeah.
I was just thinking about like at residency, how they were talking about you are working with a client whose lifestyle choices are contradictory to yours. And like just kind of skimming the article again, I was just thinking about how, you know, you don't have to condone, you don't have to accept that style or that lifestyle, but to be able to use that for them and push them forward in their journey, in their mental health journey, and whatever, that's what's the most important. I mean, I think that we have to take a step back and not look at, okay, well, this is the right way to do it, so this is the way that you should do it, because that's a total naive way of looking at it. It's their life, it's their journey, just like what I think Dr. Rogers said it, like in Residency 1, it's their journey, like we're just the navigators, or we can help navigate them, you know. So
yeah. And to like, I think I've like over the years and like my undergrad and stuff, like learned to see the beauty in other people's truths too, like even if it's not like mine, like I can appreciate like what guides them and the positives about it. Like that doesn't mean I don't see the negatives, but I can like focus on those like strengths, like what you were saying earlier. But I don't think that's always natural for us to do, but really important, like as counselors, because we have to be essentially objective. And I think that feels a little dishonest sometimes as Christians, like for helping someone else navigate their own spiritual journey, and it's different. But I've been kind of challenged this last year to kind of think like, actually, what if that's like more loving to like help someone navigate where they are rather than like force my ideas on them? Like what if that actually shows them Jesus more? I don't know, like
absolutely,
that
I totally agree with that. Well, and like, I go to an evangelical church, you know, they're very, you know, they want you to do missions and they want you to do those kind of things, and it's great. I mean, people have been touched by God all over the country, you know, or all over the world, I should say, not the country, but the world. But again, it, just like you said, it challenges me too. Every time I do any sort of like spiritual formation class, like this class, or not this class, but the spiritual formation, the cultural class, like it has challenged me so much, because I'm like, my way is not always the right way. Like, come on, Annie, you know? So.
It's humbling.
It really is.
I think it kind of reconnects us with the idea that we're going to have those experiences where we work with clients that we don't agree with. I mean, so my husband's in law enforcement, and he has done almost everything you can imagine, from homicide to persons crimes, and he has had some cases that involve children. And so you hear about these, and of course your first reaction, and I don't know, as a parent, my first reaction, of course, is more pitchfork and torches. But as a person, as a Christian, as a counselor, then part of me is, you know, like what led to this point? I mean, like, how do we get to here? And then, of course, then the question I always have to ask myself is, could I sit across the couch, the table, the room from this person and listen to them and feel like I was actually building a rapport with somebody who I know has done something that is so against everything I stand for?
Yeah. But even as you say that, I just think like this will sound so cheesy, but like that's what really Jesus models like for us and what he would do. And so I think even to like, I've been noticing even to like my outside community and friends, I think some of them are like, so you don't always get to counsel everyone as though you're a Christian. I'm like, well, not necessarily, like it depends. And I don't think they, I think they struggle too to see like, maybe that is like the more Christ-like thing to do. I liked what you said, like your awareness, Gaylene, of your like first gut reaction to these situations. I think that's really huge for me to know about myself too, because we're going to have to learn to like shorten those in counseling settings, like.
I think that's going to be one of those challenges. I think that's one of those things I talk about too, like the idea like that we check ourselves, that we consider, like our assuming responsibility for our choices. And in it, I mean, have been in the classroom for 10 years, and I can tell you right now, there's been moments where I've gotten up and apologized to a class. Okay, I lost my temper.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't okay. I'm the adult. But I think too, it's important for them to see that anybody can fail. It's what we do with those failures. How do we respond to that?
Yeah. That's a good point too.
There was a quote that kind of describes what we're talking about, like not putting our bias in with our clients. But one of the quotes from it says, as counselors, we provide safe places for the exploration, questioning, and solidifying of a client's emerging rationales. Counselors can be of help at this stage by encouraging critical reflection on the self, how it came to be, and what it wishes to be in the future. Like, I read that and I was like, oh, that's what I should be doing. Like, not trying to force people to become Christians, but providing a safe place for them to like examine themselves and choose for themselves, you know. But that will be so difficult when it goes against our faith.
Or like
that'll be really hard.
Issues we're really passionate about too, you know. I think that and that will happen. And it's different too. Something I was thinking about when we were talking about all this is that it's different when we're dealing with, maybe clients who are Christians, profess to be Christians, and they have maybe some like miscued or irrational perceptions. Like, then it's kind of our place to like help shape that, maybe more so in a Christian view. So we also maybe need that skill set too, but like we have to be able to distinguish even within like someone's Christianity, like where they're at with that. So that's why I think these stages are helpful too, because if like we see that someone isn't really able to be rational and logical in a lot of ways, maybe correcting them or like, I don't know, like trying to like help them get on the, I don't know if this is making sense, but like follow scripture clear or whatever, like isn't going to be as applicable because they're just not in a place where they're following God as seriously as someone who's at another level, you know?
I think it's going to be important for us to remember maybe not correct, but maybe help provide introspection, you know?
And that's more what I was
say that. Yeah. And so I think that's going to be a crucial part of us. But when you have a client who's stage 2 versus a client who's stage 1, and you can say, okay, this is where this person is at. Here's where I'm meeting them at. Yeah. And I think that's going to be, and on the same idea of skewed Christianities, I think that too, like we sometimes, it's easy for us to say like, okay, this is our way, but this is our opportunity also to get to know like the worldview and the perceptions and the background stories of all of these different people who are all under the same umbrella of belief in Christ. And so to get a chance to say, okay, so you have this perception and understanding. Can we talk about where this comes from and really help them to evaluate, okay, if this is skewed, why is this skewed? How did I get here?
That's good.
I think you can kind of gain some introspection from yourself too, because I know throughout this whole process I have gained a ton of introspection on maybe even where I'm at realistically in Fowler's level, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely went in thinking I was one level and I don't know if I'm there, you know, and every course in this has challenged me. And I think that our clients are going to challenge us, just like you said, you know, to be able to get a better worldview, to get a greater empathy for every culture, for every religion, for every level of spirituality, or lack of spirituality or whatever. So.
Totally. I think that's what's so cool about it. Like we're discipled through this process of like getting to meet with other people. Like God uses Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Is there any other things that stood out to you guys? Kind of been talking all around this stuff.
I thought it was interesting the distinctions between like a life crisis in a stable stage and a life crisis with a co-occurring stage transition, and then just like typical stage transitions. Because I think, again, we can quickly hop to, like in that example where the Christian becomes a Muslim, like, oh, that's the crisis in that person's life, is they're hopping from this faith to this faith. And I think that we need to be careful to examine and discern with each client, like where the crisis really is. Is it that your faith is switching, or like, is it something else? That kind of thing, determining the crisis or this transition or both or not, or I thought that was interesting.
Especially because their perception of it is probably going to be so much different than ours. And that's ultimately what's important, is like their understanding of the problem and the crisis at hand.
Right. I was thinking, like, if a kid comes in, like kind of like the kid in this example, and he has his idea of what's wrong in his life or whatever, but then his parent has a different, like the parent sees it completely differently. Like that would be like different crises going on in each person.
Seriously.
And that's a whole different challenge in itself with the family dynamic. And I didn't even think about that.
That's why I think it's so hard to work with families in counseling. It sounds so challenging. It's just a lot.
But it's important, because like if you get the kid
huge
all okay, this is he worked through whatever, and but the parent is all didn't view it that way. It's important.
Yeah, that's probably true even in couples counseling stuff too. So all kinds. Yeah, I'd liked that part too, Bridget. It was really interesting. Well, anyone else have any concluding thoughts? I think we've talked for a while, so this is probably substantial.
He did say it needs to be like a minimum of 30 minutes. So where are we at on time?
Let's see. I don't think it quite says, because I didn't start recording right at 6, so we're probably at about 20.
Okay. Well, I think that I'm going to pull the old age card. But I think too, like, as far as these stages are, sometimes we're forced into them. They're not always introspective. Sometimes we're like legitimately changes in circumstances provide us with a push, for lack of a better word. And so I think it's when we have clients who are being pushed into a stage, it's going to be challenging to help them to determine, is this what I want, where I want to be? Is this what I want to do? And I think that that's especially significant in how we consider like our challenges in our own life. So we did that that project for psychopathology. Mine was over major depressive disorder, and the last two like articles I covered in my presentation were all about how somebody's resilience in their, as far as their spirituality and their spiritual background, it contributed to how effective their treatment was, irregardless of treatment. Like, and it was in two totally unconnected studies that over and over again, like what we're bringing to the table as far as our understanding of our sense of purpose ties in with how we respond to our challenges and our trials. So I think for our clients, that's going to be especially important for us to help, if they have that spiritual background, helping them to pull on that regardless of faith.
That's cool. That's cool. You could see that in your research.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really neat.
I think sometimes a lot, like I work at a psychologist office right now, and it's a secular counseling office, and I think a lot of the time spirituality gets put on the back burner, especially in secular counseling. So I really appreciated, Gaylene, how you said that it is so, I mean, it's important depending on where you are in your spirituality, how it can build a resilience. You know, it can build a, I don't want to say tolerance, but it's a resilience against, you know, depression or anxiety, or it can help at least, you know.
Totally.
Because it's, I mean, and it's sad that it gets put on the back burner, but, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be, you know, avid churchgoer or avid whatever, you know, for you to be feeling a high sense of spirituality, you know. And I think that I hope that I can at least portray that in my profession, I guess. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but let's hope for it.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's almost even like from your experience where you work, like minimized, like it's not even seen as something helpful, but something negative?
I don't think it's, I don't ever think that they try to put it in a negative light. I just don't think it's thought of. I mean,
irrelevant.
It's totally irrelevant. And I think that, and I mean, I haven't sat on, there's like 23 counselors, private practice counselors, so I haven't sat on every one of them, but just the ones that I have, it's kind of gotten pushed on the back burner. It's, you know, it's not used as a resource. It's not used as, you know, as something that can perpetuate healing. So.
I wonder how many of those clients felt that they couldn't bring it up because they were at a secular counseling session, that it wouldn't be something that would be encouraged or acknowledged for the value they hold it.
Yep. Well, and like I'm doing my practicum at this office, and I'm really excited. There's a lot of great experience, a lot of great opportunity, but it is very clinical, and it is very, like, I really wonder how even my faith and spirituality will be incorporated. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I'm doing mine is actually at the Department of Youth Corrections. So I'm assuming that will be something totally unacknowledged unless brought up by the client.
Yep.
I even hear that in like in my peers and my friends, like people who are Christians, like they're like, well, I don't want to see someone who's not a Christian because then I can't talk to them about it. Like, I think even in our community, there's that assumption. And I get the preference, you know, like it'd be better to talk to someone who's a Christian, but
I know, but what a great opportunity to like model that example of Christ without saying a word. What a great opportunity to be that person that they feel like, hey, they really seem to have this peace. I wonder what provokes that. How do they find that? I mean, I think that's just, I think working with teens, it's absolutely, you don't get to say, do as I say, not as I do, because that's what they see. They do what I do. That's why we have the Miss Ludwig. If she doesn't say it, you don't get to say it. Until I drop an F-bomb, you don't get to drop an F-bomb. And so I think that
you would be the coolest teacher.
The opportunity for cool left like decades ago. But I think that when we model certain behaviors, whether it's kindness or any of that is the example we're trying to set.
Yep.
I think it's so much less about what we say and so much more about what we're going to do. So even if we don't say a word about being Christian and all we have is a cross on our desk, what we do, that may be what that client needs to hear, and that may be the memory they take with them for 10 years down the road when a missionary shows up at their door.
Totally. I remember Dr. Rogers kind of sharing something like that too. Like he's had, I don't know if he shared it in front of people at last year's residency or if it was in like our practice groups, but he shared that this one guy, the whole time they were meeting, like wanted to know what his faith was. And he was like, you know, when we're done like meeting together, like I would love to talk to you about that when we're no longer in this relationship. And this guy like hated Christians. And at the very end, he was like, okay, can I ask you like what your faith is? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, are you a Christian? And he's like, yeah, I am. And he's like, oh, I've never met a Christian like you before. And
oh my gosh.
I just thought that was so cool. I was like, yeah, like that's what we should be doing. Like he didn't even, if anything, he kind of skirted around it like for a bit, but it's still like this guy was like obviously encountering the Holy Spirit in powerful ways through Dr. Rogers just being, I don't know, like a different kind of Christian than he'd experienced. So I think that's a cool story too. We have about 5 minutes left or so before the timer runs out, or I guess 6. So just so you have a heads up.
I think we're going to be able to, I guess me personally, I think I'm going to be able to live this out like only with so much humility. You know, like constantly remembering like I do not know the right way in all situations, and my faith is not 100% perfect and correct. Like it's so much humility. And then I remember when I went to counseling, I was kind of dealing, this was in high school, I remember my counselor kind of telling me, I was like trying to take on the burdens of others and like save them and be there, you know, fix their problems, whatever. And she was like, Bridget, it's not about you. Like, and she was like, she just helped me. Like, she was like, you just need to take that friend and you need to point them to Jesus. Like, you don't need to point them to you. You're not Jesus. And so I just kind of get this picture of like it's not us. Like, we aren't the ones that are going to fix and save and change. Like, it's going to be God doing it.
Absolutely.
And so if we have peace and humility, like we're going to be free to just love our clients like Dr. Rogers did, and then like let God work in them, you know, even if we never get to see the fruit of that.
Yeah. I think that's so much more of what it will be like just opening doors maybe for people, like by being like coming alongside them in ways that maybe they've never experienced before. And we probably won't always get to know, but I kind of like that too. I don't know. There's something like satisfying about the hope in that, I guess. So
we're not going to know. We're not going to know a lot.
Yeah.
We're not going to know probably like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It really is like I don't know. I mean, like the transition from teacher to counselor felt a lot more natural to me, but I've had students come back and I mean, the saddest, shameful part for me is that, I mean, when I had an email from a student, I couldn't even remember her. I'm really good with faces. I'm so bad with names. And she told me that my class had helped her understand she could go to college. I'm thinking, I don't remember you. So, I mean, so cool. I think that so often we're going to have those experiences where we don't know. And then sometimes we'll be humbled with the, okay, I don't remember you. So, Annie has a friend.
They say hi. They always have to come check in, so just fair warning, you guys.
That's funny.
The only reason I'm alone right now, Annie, is because I'm in the closet with the door locked. That's the only reason I'm alone right now.
It is.
That looks like a big closet.
We just did a remodeling, and it is a big closet.
Nice.
The fact that I'm hiding in my closet at my age from my children.
How old are your children?
How old do they act, or how old are they really?
How old are they really?
I have twin 7-year-olds. Annie, don't get scared. You have to drink I think you have to drink the water from Louisiana for that to happen. And then I have a 12-year-old boy.
Okay. Dang, that's fun.
Annie has a fan club.
Yeah.
Yes, she does. I love it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's like, she's the best. We're going to tell you all about it. Well, ladies, I feel like this was a good meeting. What do you think?
Yeah,
I think
it's
Dr.
great.
Kappa will love it.
Yeah, I think he'll like our guests too.
Every week.
So we can also do it online. Like we can actually do it in the discussion thread. That's my understanding, at least too.
We can, but also he said that if we do that, there needs to be like a substantial number of responses. It can't be just the two. It has to be quite a bit of dialogue back and forth.
Yes.
So I think
I like this better.
I do too. Yeah.
Okay.
And this time, like, if it works for you guys, we can evaluate every week or not too. But
That works for me.
yeah,
It'd be good to keep it on a schedule.
I would like that too.
that sounds great.
Okay, it's gonna cut me off, so I'm gonna save the recording.
Awesome.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Night.
Night.